Hello and welcome back to Blow Up the Team. Jeremy, today we're going to be doing a Los Angeles Rams draft recap video. I got Matt here with me today. Dead silence as he
Dead
misses his
silence.
cue.
Dead silence. As I did miss my cue. I got a very interesting message from someone.
Okay.
Right as you said it.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, so that's my introduction to today. Yeah, that's exactly how I wanted that to go. All right, whatever.
Okay, we're just gonna roll with it because I'm not
We're rolling with it.
take three already. I'm
We're
not
not
making a
yeah,
take
no,
four.
we're not doing that again.
Okay.
I wouldn't expect because you know how integral I am to these NFL videos. You know it'll be a big disappointment to everyone. I don't,
Don't
have
have
a
the best
perfect
entry.
cue.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to preface this video the same way I preface all of these videos. This rank is only based on the draft. That has nothing to do with anything else that they do in the off season, despite the fact that we may bring it up just because it has relevance on what we think that they maybe should or shouldn't have addressed in the draft. But the grade itself is not about what they did in the off season. And for any highlight videos that I did not pull straight from the ESPN draft site, you can look for the link to that down in the description below. So I think I've kind of covered all my bases here. So let's go ahead and get right into it. And let's start off by talking about the 2019 Rams. I would say they had a pretty big step back from 2018. They went 13 and 3 2018, only 9 and 7 last year. And to be honest, they just didn't look like that same dominant team. And I do think that a decent part of that had to do with that man right there, Todd Gurley.
And just on from a casual fan's point of view, just on the eye test, like something like besides Todd Gurley fucked my fantasy team and what in my paid league. Never win my paid leagues. Thank God I didn't pick him up in my free league. But even for like just on the basic eye test, like something like it was obviously Gurley was a huge part of that, but it felt like everything kind of just like there was a bunch of pieces just not working for one reason or another. It just felt like there was more to it than met the eye.
Yeah, I think that what happened in 2018 was they kind of shocked the world, kind of coming out of nowhere. They had been a solid team and a team that was looking to build for the future, but then they made that big jump. And I think a lot of defenses were kind of able to figure them out. And then I think also Todd Gurley not being to his true self, kind of put a little bit of a cap on the offense. Because let's talk about the offense for a second. They were seventh in yards per game, fourth in yards through the air. So the passing attack was still very effective, still very strong. But only being 26th in rushing yards per game, it kind of makes it hard to punch that ball in in the red zone. So they were 11th in points per game, but you're looking at top 30 of the league. That's not terrible, but you know if Todd Gurley is back to his normal self and you can just kind of turn around and hand the ball off to him on the 5 yard line and just let him run over people, you know what I mean? That's kind of what it felt like in 2018. You handed him the ball, he was going to go get you 5 yards, he was going to go get you that touchdown. So I think not having that is the biggest difference in my opinion. I don't think the defense played as well as it did. I think that's the other thing is that I think the defense just didn't quite come together as well. They were 13th in yards per game allowed, 12th through the air, 19th on the ground, and 17th in points allowed. So they were kind of middle of the pack. That went from an elite defensive group to kind of middle of the pack. Despite didn't I think they made a trade midseason for Jalen Ramsey if I'm not mistaken. So they were actively trying to make moves, and it just wasn't able to pull itself together. So in response to that season, they did wind up cutting Todd Gurley, who is now in Atlanta. So I guess they felt like what they saw from him last season was worrisome enough that they feel like his time in LA was over. So obviously it'll be interesting to see how that pans out when you have a guy that was as elite as he was for those few seasons. To give up on him after one bad season and because of an injury, I think maybe it was a little premature, but time will tell on that one. They could have very easily seen something that obviously we can't always see. Um, and then on the defensive side of the football, they had some significant losses. They lost Dante Fowler also to Atlanta, they replaced Clay Matthews with Leonard Floyd. So a little bit of a turnover on this team. I don't think they really quote unquote blew it up, but definitely some turnover as they're trying to figure out where the team has to go. Because the other thing that they have to do is take into account, hey, uh, you know, we're gonna have to pay a lot of these young guys. Jared Goff, his contract's gonna kick in. Todd Gurley's contract was about to kick in, so they've got to try to figure out how they're gonna turn over this team and continue to improve as a lot of these contracts become harder and harder to handle. That definitely looked like a false start on the right tackle. Sorry. Um, they also lost Greg Zerline, elite kicker that they've had for years, one of the best kickers in the league. Losing him, um, you know, kickers are kind of one of those weird things where like they're not the most thought about position and they're kind of taken for granted, but like when you have a good kicker, you don't always appreciate it, but when you have a bad one, you definitely notice it. So it'll definitely we'll talk about who they replaced him with a little bit later. And then Eric Weddle also retired. So lots of turnover. In terms of people that they brought in, they signed Andrew Whitworth to start at left tackle. And they also brought in Ashawn Robinson to start at nose tackle. So those are the two biggest additions that I saw. Other than that and Leonard Floyd was the other one to kind of step in for Clay Matthews. So I think that's about it for my kind of off-season recap. Let's go ahead and get to the draft. Just really quickly, like I wanted to just check and make sure. Yeah, I was right. They did trade for Jalen Ramsey last season. I wanted to make sure I wasn't getting him confused with anybody. So they made 9 draft picks this season. No first-round selection. But I think it makes sense. I think they needed to reposition after a down year, and hopefully they're going to try to find some cheaper options to kind of fill the depth charts so that with contracts that are going to be hitting the books harder and harder. And their first selection, I think, goes to try to replace, or you can't really replace the production that Todd Gurley had, especially not during that 2018 season. But this is the guy that I think they're hoping is going to step up and lead this running back crew. They don't really have an established running back outside of Todd Gurley, so it's going to be an interesting season for them. And Cam Akers, running back out of Florida State, he looks to be a complete back. In my opinion, and everybody's opinion that I was reading online as well, he kind of seems to be a little bit undervalued. As you see there, he's got some hands, he can make a catch, but he's also a threat after the catch, even if the yards after the catch doesn't necessarily show it. He's got good size, great speed, and I would say he's got good instincts and patience, and I always say you can't really teach patience that well, so he either got it or you don't, and he seems to have it. He's not a huge power back in terms of like pile pushing ability, but he stays balanced through contact well, and he keeps fighting for yards. And he's also willing to come down and make a block in pass protection. He's as of right now listed as an RB2, running back 2. But I would say with Todd Gurley gone, with no other proven running backs on the roster, I believe I want to make sure. Darrell Henderson, Darrell Henderson is currently listed as the lead back in the backfield. So I definitely think that if Cam Akers has a good start to the season, you could see him take over lead back role very quickly. And hopefully they'll kind of be able to retool the offense around him, the running offense at least around him, because you can't repeat as 26th in rushing yards if you're a Rams fan. I think that you want to see them kind of get back to being able to be a more balanced offensive attack, because I don't know Jared Goff. Everybody has mixed opinions on Jared Goff. He definitely has had a few good seasons. He definitely has had a few good seasons. I'm not taking anything away from it. I think he's definitely got a lot of talent. But you don't want to put all that pressure on him to have to be that guy that's going to drop back and throw the pass, every down. So you want to be able to have that balanced attack, and I think that Cam Akers gives you a chance to do that. Moving on, Von Jefferson out of Florida, wide receiver. He's a fantastic route runner, and he can beat press coverage, and he can find the soft spots in zones well. And he just seems to have the great hands and body control to adjust to passes in the air. While he doesn't have the speed to be a huge vertical threat, I think he should still fit in well. They have a lot of other guys on the roster that can be that vertical threat, whether it's Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp. They all have their moments, or those two guys at least have their moments. I would say right now he's listed as a wide receiver 4, but I could definitely see him stepping up to wide receiver 3 and kind of just being that consistent, like almost kind of like Julian Edelman type role, where he's going to be running a lot of those kind of short to intermediate length, kind of underneath routes to be kind of a safety valve for Jared Goff, kind of give him somebody that he knows is going to be ready for the ball, and he's going to be able to bring the ball in and do something with it. He's going to be able to create that separation, and that's going to be a good safety valve for him to have in that offense. Next up, we've got Terrell Lewis, outside linebacker out of Alabama. He's physically well-rounded. He's got a good size, power, speed, and athleticism, and he's got a quick first step and plays physically. He's aggressive in run support, and he has the physical ability to be a threat rushing off the edge. Now, he's currently listed as a third-string linebacker, which, considering everything that I just read to you, maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's a very, kind of strong linebacker and defensive line crew that they have at the very least on paper, even if they don't always play up to their potential. They've got a lot of strong guys on that roster. So um, I would say while he may be listed as a third string, I think he has all the tools in the world to be effective if his numbers are called. And I think that, more importantly, I think he's got the ability to be versatile if they need him to kind of move around that formation a little bit. Maybe he won't always necessarily stay at an outside linebacker spot. Maybe he could step inside. Maybe he could step down and be an end if they needed him to. I don't really know. All that he was really kind of recruited as an outside linebacker, but guys that just have that kind of just physical kind of athletic build, they always find a place in the in the defense. So I would say look out for him to have an impact, kind of, especially as the season wears on and gets some injuries. I would think that he's a solid guy to have coming off the depth charts, even if he is currently listed as fairly low. Um, and the other thing I just wanted to take a quick note of is, as I mentioned earlier, they did bring in Leonard Floyd, but that was only on a 1-year deal. So if Lewis shows promise, you could see him kind of take over for Leonard Floyd next season, and they choose not to re-sign him. So look out for that. He could definitely, while he may not be a huge like starting level threat this season, I definitely feel like you could see him step up and be that guy. Maybe next season or the season after. So definitely a lot of potential here, and I think I overall like the pick. Next up, another third round pick, Terrell Burgess, safety out of Utah. He's versatile to line up all over the formation, and he can be competitive against an all kinds of range that the offense could show him. So he can be competitive against a tight end. He can be competitive against a slot receiver, and he tackles well and closes quickly. He can slip blocks at the point of attack well, um, but he's not necessarily a ball hawk. You're not going to see him kind of go up and make these fantastic interceptions or anything like that. He will occasionally make a play on the football, but that's not necessarily like his biggest strength. But as of right now, he's listed as a backup free safety, and I think that he's got the tools again to step up and be that guy if you need him to. He's got the athletic tools to be that guy kind of going forward for them. So losing Eric Weddle to retirement, I definitely think that in the future there will be a spot for him among this defense. This is just a very young team all over the board, in my opinion. So I definitely think there's going to be a lot of room where they're going to be trying to age out some of these veterans and maybe have some of these guys, within the next year or 2 years, step up and be that kind of next foundation for the team. Next up, Brycen Hopkins out of Purdue. He's a tight end. He's shown some potential as a route runner, and he's definitely athletic enough to continue to improve. And he's shown flashes to make difficult catches, but one thing I did see that here noted is that he has a high drop rate, which is a bit concerning. You're kind of looking for your tight end to be that kind of secondary safety valve that that you can get him the ball, and he'll just, big body, going to come down with the ball, and you just kind of chug along down the field. So having a high drop rate at tight end position is not necessarily ideal. That was a little bit of a circus catch, though. But yeah, the other thing that I saw noted was there have been times when he's had issues staying on blocks because of his lack of strength. Now I think that can obviously be kind of changed over time through strength training, and I definitely think that will become something that they focus on as he gets up to NFL speed. He is currently listed as a tight end 3. I definitely think that of the guys that we've talked about here, which as it would make sense, I would think that he's kind of got the kind of hardest path to kind of getting significant playing time, in my opinion. He's kind of stuck here behind Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett. Both of these guys were very effective at different points last season. At least Gerald Everett is. I don't know a whole lot about Tyler Higbee, but I know Gerald Everett has definitely shown a lot to. I remember one game last year when he just completely lit it up. So it was the one possession it felt like where he was getting the ball like every play. But not a bad guy to have on the depth charts. Again, injuries are unfortunately a part of this league, and having guys in the depth chart that can step up and be productive is something that. Oh, I was talking about Jared Everett. There he is. Having guys on the depth chart that can step into the role and kind of be that guy for you if you have somebody go down with injury is something that's important. And so having somebody that's a route runner like that, if he can just work on his hands a little bit, get that strength up, I definitely think that he has a lot of potential to fit in with his offense well. Next up, we've got Jordan Fuller, safety out of Ohio State. Now we're starting to get into the 6th round. They didn't have a 5th round selection, so this is a 6th round pick, and then the last 3 are all 7th round. So I'm going to try to speed through these as much as I can. But Jordan Fuller, he's got good size, but and he plays at a fast speed despite having a slower 40 time. So he didn't necessarily have a great speed in the combine, but I would say he's got a lot of potential to kind of play faster than that in real time. He breaks on the ball well, although he does struggle in man-to-man coverage a bit. He plays the run well, and he seems to be a sound tackler. He's currently listed as a backup strong safety, which I would say is pretty good value out of a mid to late 6th round pick to have somebody that, you know, he's pretty high up on the depth chart. I think he's got a lot of potential. Obviously, safeties don't play a ton of man-to-man coverage in the league. There's a lot of times they're going to be put. I could definitely see him being kind of uh, maybe a kind of center fielder type where he's going to be kind of his job is to read quarterback's eye and break on the football because that seems to be what his strengths are. But I wouldn't expect to see him if he does wind up on the field. I wouldn't expect to see him lined up in a ton of man-to-man situations because that's not exactly his strength. Moving here into the 7th round, we got Clay Johnston, inside linebacker out of Baylor. He's had a little bit of a struggle with staying healthy, and he's a bit undersized, but when he was on the field, he was productive. He tackles well, but he doesn't have a huge ton of upside on special teams, which I know I talk about a lot, being able to get out of these kind of late round picks, getting them that they'll be, have potential in special teams. I don't think that he's necessarily that guy. Which does concern me a little bit. He's currently listed as a 4th-string inside linebacker, but more than anything, he just needs to find a way to get healthy and stay healthy so he can have a chance to develop. So I would say that, to me, this is one of the only picks that I kind of looked at here as questionable. Questioning, like, is there maybe a guy that they could have, maybe they could have gone out and got a special teams kind of guy that they knew was going to be productive for them instead of taking a flyer on this guy who's injury prone, maybe a little bit undersized for his position, and just kind of trying to see what he will develop into. So, something to look at there. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even make the roster this season if he can't stay healthy. Obviously, I'm not one to make those predictions, but given his injury history and kind of everything that he's been through in his college years, it's a little concerning to me that he could just get injured. And obviously this is a 7th round pick, so I'm not going to harp on it too much, but. Hopefully he's able to get healthy. I'm always going to be rooting for the players here, so hopefully he gets healthy and he shocks the world. Next up, I think this could actually be the guy outside of those first couple picks that has the biggest impact this season is Sam Sloman, kicker out of Miami, Ohio. He's a bit on the smaller side. I think he was listed at 5'8", but he's got a big leg, and he made 4 50-yard plus field goals last season. He's also kind of improving as a kickoff man. And this is the guy that's looking to replace Greg Zuerlein as the primary kicker on the roster. So I mentioned earlier, when you have a good one, you take it for granted, and if you don't, you definitely will remember it. So it'll be kind of a moment of truth for him pretty quickly once he gets into the league to determine what he will and won't be able to give to a team on a night in, night out. Because Greg Zuerlein's kind of got big shoes to fill. He was very productive for a lot of years, so it'll be interesting to see what they're able to get out of him. And then the last pick here, we got Tremaine Ankrum, offensive guard out of Clemson. This was another one of those picks that I was kind of like, really? Because he's a little bit short, but he's got good speed. He gets set quickly, but he doesn't have like kind of like shocking strength either. He also has an issue kind of matching quicker interior pass rushers. He does have the potential to kind of wall off in run protection, but I don't know that as a pass protector he shows that much promise. He has played tackle in college, but he projects better as a guard, and he's currently listed as a 4th-string right guard. They did need depth along the offensive line, but I do think that he's probably a little bit unlikely to step up and become kind of a reliable starter in the near future. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but from what I'm looking at, that just kind of seems to me like they maybe could have gotten better value. Again, looking towards special teams, getting impact players there. But that is all 9 of their picks. So I guess moving into the grades here, I'm torn. Matt, I think you probably know where I'm torn. Honestly, I get torn here a lot because I do try to
Yeah.
give these guys a lot of benefits of the doubts. I think that they got
I mean, I
impact
think the
players.
important thing is that like you're not giving these great like obviously these guys we're not rooting against these guys to make it into the league, but you can't look at guy and like obviously you hope he does well, but you can't it's if it sounds rough, it's the truth. So
And again, I don't watch millions of hours of college football either. So keep in mind a lot of this stuff I'm finding from kind of doing research on these guys online. So I'm not necessarily saying anything too out of the water here. This is kind of a lot of stuff that I was kind of reading online myself. So um, in terms of a draft grade for them, I think that they definitely needed to try to find that kind of replacement for Todd Gurley, and so they looked running back early, and they also looked. I think the spots that they needed the most attention, they did look that way early. Um, as you can see here, they filled most of their needs, which I mean, this is not always the best indicator of everything, but they did fill most of their needs. I liked a lot of their picks. I do think that they got some solid guys that have potential to develop going forward. And given the fact that this is such a young team, despite the fact that they've been playing so well the last two seasons. I would say they played pretty well last season, but they had such a fantastic 2018 season. If you remember, I don't know if you remember, Matt, if you watched it, there was
oh, of course.
I think it was a Monday night Chiefs Rams game that it was just one of the best football games I've ever watched. Just because they were marching. Maybe it was Sunday night at 8:30. I don't
One of
remember.
the best offensive games you've ever watched.
Well, yeah, there was no defense being played. But in terms of just like high pressure, just good football, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that. The teams were just marching up and down the field, and it was just a sight to behold. Um, But I think since they are such a young team, they're going to be looking to develop. So a lot of the picks that they made sense. They were looking at guys that are kind of going to be looking to step up and replace those veteran guys that are in that spot now within a couple of years. So I think they did a good job positioning themselves for the future. I don't know that in terms of winning this upcoming season, they made anything. I don't know that they made picks that are going to necessarily move them, from 9-7 back to that 13-3 mark. Um, but I do think they position well for the years going forward. So for that reason, I think I'm going to go ahead and slot them in at a B minus. I think that for Rams fans out there, you were kind of looking to get back to that 2018 season. I think you were looking to try to compete this year. And I don't know that these picks necessarily get you back to that 2018 level. But I do think you project well for the next couple of years. So I'm not going to come at them too harshly. But I do think a B minus makes sense. They missed out on a chance maybe to had they moved up in the draft, maybe they could have gotten a couple bigger kind of name guys that would have made a bigger impact this immediate season to kind of step up and get back to that level. But I think that kind of taking a step back and positioning for the future makes a lot of sense for them. Do you agree, Matthew?
Great. Because I like their for what they did without a first round draft pick. I feel like they did really good. But then like towards the end there's a lot of guys that, as you said, they have like qualities that's for the most part are good, but like especially that one tight end pick is like kind of iffy to me. Like because I don't think in any position you want a high drop rate, and that could be a huge problem. And so there's some guys in there that like, I'm not sold on value wise.
I'll be
But
honest. I was between a C plus and a B minus. That was kind of what
no,
I was
I think the
between.
B minus is fair. I don't think it was I don't think it was a bad draft. I don't think it was a great draft. I don't think this guy. I don't think this even brings them close to 2018. I think they'll be. I don't think they're going to be as. I don't even think they'll be better than last year, honestly.
I think they'll be hovering around where they were last year, 8-8, 9-7. I think makes sense for this team, unless
Yeah.
the defense steps back up. If the defense steps back up, you could see a complete revival of this team. But if the defense plays anything like it did last year, I think that you'll kind of see them kind of play as well as they played last year, 9-7, 8-8, maybe 10-6. But obviously that's all conjecture, and I haven't spent a lot of time kind of looking at it. I just don't see the picks here that really push them over the edge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think you make good points though. I don't think that they're gonna be back to that level this year. Definitely not, in my opinion. Although again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they all come together. So, but with that being said, that will be it for us for this week. Matt comes back on Monday with the Dodgers video. You excited?
I'm very excited to talk about the Dodgers.
All right.
Good
So we
team.
got the Dodgers
Fun
on
team.
Monday. And then the rest of the week is Las Vegas Raiders, Oakland A's,
God, the
Dolphins,
A's
and
again, yeah.
Marlins.
Oh, the Marlins. Yes.
The Dolphins are. We'll talk about the Dolphins next week, but that's our plan for next week. If you're interested, check out his Los Angeles Angels video. He dropped yesterday, or look at any other videos that we've dropped within the past few weeks here. Again, this ranking is only based on the draft. It has nothing to do with anything else that they did in the offseason. It is purely based on the draft. So keep that in mind. And the highlight video will be, the original video will be linked in the description down below. So go ahead and make sure to check that out. If you like the video, make sure to leave a like. Comment if you think I missed anything, or you have you think I'm right, think I'm wrong. Go ahead and leave that in the comment section down below. And make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure to check out our Discord and our other social media in the description down below. And we will see you next time. Peace.